Would you speak into the mic?
Sorry. Good morning, Mayor, the City Council. My name is Laurent Parizeau. I'm the president and the co-CEO of JC Decaux North America. I'm here to talk about the recommended award of the housing concession at AH. JC Decaux is the largest outdoor advertising company in the world. We are present in more than 60 countries, 35 cities with street furniture. We're also the largest airport advertising company in the world with concession in 160 of the largest international airports throughout the world. And that includes here in the United States, where we operate concessions at the 3 New York airports, at LAX, contract that was just renewed, Boston, the contract we just won, the DC airports, and of course here since 2000, the 2 Houston airports. And last week, our competitors told you that they operated the housing concession in 5 of the 10 largest U.S. airports. And I would like to share another statistic with you. JC Decaux operates the advertising concession in 8 of the 10 most successful airports in terms of advertising revenue per passenger in the United States. So we do deliver revenue to our advertising partners more so than anyone else. And that has been the case here in Houston. In 2007, we invested millions of dollars in implementing a new program that brought digital advertising for the first time to these airports, and one of the first airports actually in the United States. And since then, over the past 7 years, we have multiplied the revenue at IH by 3.5, and more than doubled the revenue at Hobby. The new contract that is in front of you to award will allow us to make another very significant capital investment to bring yet a new generation of digital advertising, the new technology that is available today, and that advertisers also want. This will allow us to improve the passenger experience, help promote the community even more than we have done in the past, and generate even more revenue for HAS and the city. Now, the process for this award has been extremely clear and very fair. And the recommendation that is in front of you really represents the best option for HAS and for the city of Houston. So I would urge you to follow this recommendation. Thank you.
Chair recommends Councilor Lassiter.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, Mr. President. I'm glad to have you at the City Council today and hear from your proposal. You've had the contract now for since 2000, is that right?
That's all right.
Yes. Can you explain to me and to the council, what is the strategic advantage for the City of Houston for Intercontinental to have a standalone contract in this instance, as opposed to having a unified contract for all of the system?
I don't think there is a strategic advantage one way or the other. The 2 airports are quite different in the type of passenger they serve, the type of destination they serve, and advertisers recognize that. So what you will see is a lot more of regional or local advertisers at Hobby, and a lot more international and national advertisers in Intercontinental. And does it make sense to have the 2 together? Sometimes it does, but really, I think when you look at the process and what came out of it, where JC Decaux made a better proposal for Intercontinental, and Clear Channel made a better proposal for Hobby, really A plus B was much better for HAS than A plus B together, meaning C.
Remind me, did Decaux bid on A, B, and C, or just A, or B, or C, or what?
On all 3, as was required by the RFP.
Well, I think that's part of the challenge the council's getting around is what was required by the RFP. It seemed to be enormously confusing as we've had a series of conversations about that.
If you wanted to bid for C, meaning the 2 airports, you had to bid separately for A and for B. And it was very clear in the RFP that HAS reserved the right to award separately Hobby and Intercontinental.
Thank you. Mayor, can you explain, it was my understanding last week as we addressed part of this issue that when we did a motion to return the that proposal back to the administration to look at it further. It was my understanding that the entire issue was going to be looked at as a whole, so I'm a little surprised that this is on this week's agenda. Can you bring us up to speed on that?
The discussion of the council members focused on the Hobby Airport contract and whether Clear Channel had been given a fair access to the process, and that whether they had clearly withdrawn from the bid process. So we pulled the item back, clearly bifurcated the system, and Clear Channel, which won the Hobby contract and in our view declined, and we're putting the Hobby contract back out on the street. So we're going to have a fresh start, and they've each seen each other's cards, so we will in effect get a best and final from the two bidders.
So is our option either to vote yes or no, or to refer it back to committee if we wanted it all to be looked at again? What's our option?
It is the administration's option, and it was throughout the process to decide whether to offer this as a package or individual contracts, and it is still the administration's position that we get the best bang for our buck by having individual contracts on these two airports.
Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your presentation today, sir. A couple questions. Do you have a team locally here in Houston?
Yes, we do, and actually, Sylvia Radford with here will speak later today. Sylvia is a minority-owned business and has been working with us as our minority partner, ACDB partner, since 2008. And she has 5 employees that are working full-time on the tour.
Okay, so that's your sales team.
That is our local sales team and local maintenance team. We also have a local manager who oversees this, and we have a sales office in Dallas where all the agencies, the main agencies are in Dallas.
So you have basically 5 employees here in Houston through your
6, including Sylvia, investors ourselves, and a 7th, which is a direct employee of JC Decaux, who oversees this, yes.
Okay, and at any time before today, did you feel the need to come and maybe talk to council or to describe this process, your side of the story? I'm just trying to figure out, we had this over a month ago, and we're just hearing from you today.
Certainly, and I apologize for that. We tried to follow the instructions, as to what contact we had to make at what point in the process for the RFP, and you see there was confusion on our part, which is why we didn't know. We were here yesterday, and we met with a number of your colleagues. I hope we get a chance to have a one-on-one with you as well, if you wish, to explain that.
Councilmember.
Well, yeah.
I need a motion to extend time. Favor proposed, motion carries. Councilmember, when you're done.
Just one last question. What's the difference, when I came back from LAX, I saw JC Decaux in the Intercontinental Airport. What's the difference in your promos and the displays from then to what do you plan on doing now?
Difference in the program?
Yeah.
The program you have seen in LAX is actually the very same generation of the program that we currently have at IH and Ovid. So you've seen the very same panels. We now have developed totally new fixtures, if you will, digital fixture in particular. And the new program will have, instead of having the screen sitting relatively low on the floor and being a little bit in the way of the passengers, we now set them on very beautifully designed poles up high so that they are seen better, but they are not really an impediment to foot traffic there. You will see also the new interactive directories. We will spend close to $1 million to place interactive directories throughout the concourses that will not generate any revenue, but that will provide a service that will promote the concession in the airport, that will promote what's happening in the city of Houston. We will have similar directories also in the baggage claim area, same thing, that will provide information on public transportation, on everything that's happening in the city, and allow you also to contact your hotel, your car rental company, and so on. There will also be very large LED displays that will be placed at those security entrances so that people wait in line there can see them, and there will be actually 10 seconds every minute on the loop that will be shown on those displays that will be dedicated fully to Houston. and to HAS for them to use and promote whatever they feel appropriate to promote there.
Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Parasol, thanks for coming down and thanks for your testimony. Councilmember Davis has requested a follow-up meeting with you. You mentioned that you met with some council members on yesterday. How did you decide which council member you were going to meet with?
I think we were aiming to meet all the council members. I understand there was a meeting after 3 p.m. that made council members unavailable at that point. So we met with the council members from 8:30 a.m. I think.
I'm just asking, how did you decide which ones? So is your intention to meet with all of us?
Ideally, yes.
Okay, so we still need to do that then. The other, you've had the contract JC Decaux how long?
Since 2000.
Okay, since 2000.
And the current contract is a result of an extension that was granted in 2007 and against the investment that we made, as I mentioned, in the first people advising program and resulted in a major revenue increase.
Okay. I think you also testified that in some instances the revenues were double at Hobby and IH. You said maybe three and a half times. When I look at the numbers, they appear to be at Bush Airport, IH, they appear to be flat for the 10-year period except for the Chase One card transaction. If you take the Chase One card transaction, which was a result of the Continental United merger, you pulled it off the table. Is it true that those revenues would be pretty much flat for a 10-year period? Because I'm concerned about the revenue generation over the 10-year period.
I don't think it's fair to say they would be flat. Certainly the growth would be a lot less than what we were able to achieve by maximizing the buy from Chase. And the amount that Chase spent at the airport is really the result of how we worked with them in order to provide them with the kind of coverage we wanted, working with them and working as partners with HAS as well. If you look also at the type of advertisers, the list of advertisers that we have had over the 10-year period, you will find that there has been a lot of turnover, a lot of change over time. We constantly look for new advertisers and we find them, and so we replace advertisers that change strategies and change where they want to spend their advertising dollars and find new ones. So overall, no, the growth has been global. Yes, Chase is a large part of the big increase. Again, it would not have happened if it hadn't done this work properly, but the rest has increased as well.
Clear Channel also made a pretty probative argument, in my view, that bifurcating the advertising experience here in Houston would be the motion to extend this. Thank you, Council. They made a pretty probative argument, in my view, that bifurcating the advertisement experience here in Houston may cause a confusion, in some cases maybe even conflict nationally and internationally, because there would be 2, maybe 3 agents representing the Houston market soliciting potential clients across the country. What is your response to that, as opposed to having one vendor, if you will, representing Houston and the airport concession space here? We have 3 people, or maybe at least 2, reaching out representing Houston.
2 answers to that. First, as I mentioned earlier, the advertisers that target IH and those that target the hobby are quite different. So from that standpoint, there's no confusion. Second, this is not the only city where this would be the case. Take Dallas. Don't have to go very far. Airports, DFW, Dallas, Florida. Those have been operated by 2 separate different companies for the past 15 years. And it's been working very well.
Okay.
LA just awarded us a new contract for LAX. Our previous contract included LAX and Ontario Airport. In this new RFP, they actually decided to go with 2 separate contracts. So they will issue a new RFP for Ontario alone.
Thank you. The other issue has to do with the A, B, C package. You submitted a response to the C option.
We submitted a response to A, to B, and to C.
So that's just yes, you submitted the
Yes.
response to the C option, thank you. The mayor's indicated that she plans to issue an opportunity to respond to B independently. Are you able to say whether you plan to respond to that RFP or not?
Absolutely, yes.
What was your opinion about the option C?
Option C was a good option, but I'm always want to follow the rules, and I always think that the airport authority knows what's best for them. Their rule was you have to bid for each airport individually and for the package, and you have to accept what HS's decision is. We have accepted that. After Third Channel decided to get out of the process by rejecting the award of Hobby, which I didn't even know they were allowed to do, but that's what they decided to do. I would say it's in contempt of the airport. Then HAS turned to us. We were the only other proposer, so they turned to us and said, well, will you take Hobby? We said, okay, we'll take it. I don't feel like I won Hobby. I did not.
Thank you. In your experience, particularly, I know you do international opportunities, but particularly here in America, do you have an opinion about jurisdictions or entities that utilize best and final as a tool?
Yes.
What is your opinion on that, please?
I don't really like it because I think that, when you prepare a proposal like that, you want to put your best foot forward immediately.
And so it's usually in the client's best interest to offer the best and final. That's why perhaps you don't like it because you don't decide
When there is a best and final, what happens is that you hold back.
Is it a fair statement that it works better for the client because in this case the city, the client squeezes better value out of the vendors?
Not necessarily, because as I said, if you know there is going to be a best and final offer, then you're not going to put your best foot forward in the first round.
Okay, let me do one question and then I will pass the floor, please. You stated earlier that the clients who seek Houston understand that there's a very, very different orientation between IH and Hobby Airport because IH was an international airport, international experience. If I'm not mistaken, I think Hobby is an international airport as well.
Yes, indeed, and it will be much more so in the future. But I'm not the agencies. And it is very odd, and I'll give you another example in a second. It's very odd that agencies don't seem to really realize that they have eyeballs everywhere and that there are equivalent eyeballs. They don't realize that.
Mr. Parasol, thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
I need a motion to extend time. Second. Favor and opposed, motion carries. And council members, I want to be clear that when we offer a contract and we say that we reserve the option to do it best and final, it is at the administration's discretion. We don't say up front we're going to take bids and we're going to do a best and final. We place it in the context, in context to say that it is our discretion to bring them back into the table. Because as Mr. Parasol says, we expect them to give their best bid up front, but sometimes we suspect that they have not. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for coming today. I guess I was the one who asked last week, who is JC Decaux, and it's interesting that you guys have had council meetings. I've yet to get an opportunity to meet with you, so we will be tagging this today, and hopefully in this time period, I'll have an opportunity to meet with you and your team. A couple of things I want to get some clarity, because you talked about the better proposal. Is it true that, in my understanding, and I'm not sure if you're aware, that the difference between your proposal, your submission, and the runner-up was, I think, 0.6%. Are you familiar with that?
I am. This was the difference on the package C. On package A, the difference was 3 points.
Okay, and so in package C, which was inclusive Intercontinental, is that correct?
With both Intercontinental and Hobby, yes.
Right. And with regard to that package, 5 points were given for a joint venture between you and the prime. Is that correct? Are you familiar with that? I mean, is that true?
I am familiar with that. This was a rule that was given by the RFP. We played by the rule, and I think, you know.
And your joint venture in this instance with the ACDE is 1%. The minority vendor and 99% JC Decaux, is that correct?
This is correct.
Okay, and so with such a huge disparity with regard to ownership in this particular joint venture, does, in your mind, this agreement give the joint venture an opportunity, one, to have some sort of control, if you will, or say so in what transpires, because it's one, such a small percentage, and two, if you could talk to me about, because at IH there's a 5.4% MWBE or ACDEBE requirement, how do you get to the 5.4% with only 1% interest for the minority vendor? Also, given the fact with your company's history with MWBE participation and the lack thereof in these types of contracts, so maybe you can explain that plan that you have to do that with a 1% joint venture.
Absolutely. I'll try to address all the points and your questions. If I miss any, please remind me. On the 1%, Sylvia Casassos will talk to you. She's a woman-owned Hispanic business. She doesn't have much money. If she did, she would not necessarily be an ACDP.
Are there no other partners here in the city of Houston that perhaps could come to the table? Or, were they, reached, was there any outreach to other vendors in the area?
Sylvia Casassos